Dear students, how are you? Today we discuss VIVA question based on experiment prism. First question is, what do you mean by prism? Prism is a triangular shaped structure having two refracting surfaces and one base. The angle between the two refracting surfaces is called prism angle, that is represented by angle A. What we are doing here? We are plotting a graph between angle of incidence and angle of deviation. Right? What is angle of deviation? The angle which is formed between the incident ray and emergent ray. Emergent ray को backward करे, incident ray forward चले, then the angle which is formed, what we call it, angle of deviation. On what factor angle of deviation depend? This depend on angle of incidence, angle of prism, and the material of prism, means its refractive index. What do you mean by angle of minimum deviation? How we get it? When we are increasing the angle of incidence, the angle of deviation decreases. For one particular angle of incidence, the angle of deviation becomes minimum. When we are increasing the angle of incidence, the angle of deviation minimum, that is called angle of deviation. Afterward, when we increase the angle of incidence, the angle of deviation increases. This is a cup shaped structure. On one factor, the angle of minimum deviation depend on refractive index and angle of prism. For thin prism, what is the formula for angle of deviation? That for thin prism, delta is equal to mu minus 1a. That is only depending on the material of prism, means refractive index and angle of prism. At minimum deviation position, what is the path of the ray which is passes through the prism? Suppose this, for this angle of incidence, right? The ray, there is the angle of minimum deviation, right? Then if it is equilateral triangle, the light ray must passes parallel to the base. How it passes? It passes parallel to the base and emergent ray. Is this path for all the ray? No. The ray which is coming at this angle, diverted like this. The ray which is coming at, diverted like this. For only minimum deviation position, for particular angle of incidence, the ray of path ray is parallel to the base. So when we are plotting the graph, we are choosing I 35 degree to 60 degree, 70 degree onwards. If we are taking angle of incidence less than 30 degree, what happens is the refraction of light takes place to the prism. See, if the angle of incidence is less than 30 degree, the light ray gets refracted, then there is a TIR takes place, then there is a TIR takes place, then there is a TIR takes place, the light is not coming out. So, in order that TIR not takes place, our angle of incidence should be more than 35 degree or onwards. And one more question is asked, if we interchange this angle at minimum deviation position, we interchange it, is the path of the ray which is passing through prism change? No, there is no change. So basically, the examiner can ask, what do you mean by prism? What is the refractive angle? Why it takes place? Due to refraction of light it takes place. What is the angle of minimum deviation? The angle between the incident ray and emergent ray is the angle of deviation. It takes place from 35 degree to 70 degree onwards. At one particular angle of incidence, the angle of deviation becomes minimum. What we call it, angle of minimum deviation, right? So next video we give the VIVA question based on mirrors.